everybody. I actually have a movie review of a movie I just watched. I just got home from the theater. It's just one of those things where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the movie and get it over with. Well, I just finished watching Father Stew in the theater. It's got Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson and Malcolm McDowell, among other folks, in the movie. The only two people that I halfway liked in that movie were Malcolm McDowell and Mark Wahlberg. I am not a fan of Mel Gibson. I mean, after his rant, his anti-Semitic rant, I'm kind of like, I'm off of him, and I have been for a few years. I mean, that's his fault. But I have to say, I didn't look this movie up on Wikipedia before I went and seen it. I tell you, that was a mistake. I have to say it was a mistake. Because if I had looked this up on Wikipedia before I went and seen it, I probably wouldn't have seen it. Because I'll tell you something, it was depressing. I mean, it wasn't what I thought at all either. Father Stew is based on a real dude named Father Stew. I forget his last name. But it's about him becoming a priest and, like his life before that and stuff. And I gotta tell you, it was depressing. It's just, and I'm also glad that I did not watch this or see this movie. It's a good thing this movie didn't come out like last year, like after July of last year of 2021. Because I gotta tell you, I probably would have cried. Because at the end, what happens is Father Stew actually dies at the end of the movie. Or it's like it talks about the fact that he died. Because Father Stew was a real person, and he passed away in June of 2014. After getting ordained as a minister or a priest. Sorry. Mildly sleepy. I haven't had enough caffeine today. But that aside, I tell you, it's just... Mel Gibson played Mark Wahlberg's dad. Which, considering what my opinion is of Mel Gibson, is perfect. Because the dad, this guy's Father Stew's biological father was a potty mouth the way they portrayed him in the movie. Malcolm McDowell played the bishop, which I had to pull that up. I pulled it up on Wikipedia. I'm like thinking, why do I recognize that dude's face a little bit and his voice? I kept thinking, why in the world do I recognize him a little bit? And then I saw Malcolm McDowell. I went, yeah, I know who that is. I mean, I'm used to seeing Malcolm McDowell from like Tank Girl. Because it's like, he's, a limey bastard in Tank Girl, and it's like, I'm like, okay, I like him. I mean, I'm like 2 out of 3 ain't bad, So, it's just been one of those days. It's been raining here, just as an aside. And this is, as my grandfather used to say, this is good sleeping or fishing weather. But anyway, I wanted to say that, I just did not care for this movie. Because it was depressing. Oh my God, it was depressing. It really was. I mean, it's just, like, you watched him I think it was something like Lou Gehrig's disease he ends up with about halfway through the movie. And you watch him basically falling apart the rest of the movie. And I'm like, and it's a 2 hour and 4 minute long movie. And I tell you what, it got to the point where, I mean, it literally dragged ass about halfway through. And I'm like thinking, whoever wrote this must have gotten like writer's block about halfway through and just, just like, like how to, like transition or something to where he gets sick and everything goes to shit. And it's just, it's like, really, and it's just, that's what I didn't like about the movie. It's just, it was about, I'd say about 45 minutes longer than it should have been. I mean, it just, I tell you what, both my mom and I walked out of that movie and went, oh God, what did we just waste over 2 hours of our time watching? I mean, it was awful. I thought, God help me. This is like awful. I mean, it was. I mean, but the only good thing is Father Stu pulled his parents back together and, helped them get their lives put back together or something towards the end, because the parents were at odds with each other. Like I said, I got a little bit of the sleepies, because that movie about put me to sleep, too. That was the other thing. I mean, I went in there and I was like, oh dear God. I started fidgeting, like, towards the last 45 minutes of the movie. I'm like, I can't sit here. If I sit here much longer, I'm going to go to sleep. That's why I started fidgeting, because I was like, I'm like, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to sit here and go to sleep. I mean, I have to say, this is the second movie I've seen this year this is literally the second movie I've gone and seen in the theater this year. The other one was Fantastic Beasts, last month? Or earlier this month, I forget. But I tell you, this movie had the same problem that one had. It's like all of a sudden, it's like they had a brain fart on how to, write, transition it from, okay, they're telling the story and, they need to transition it in the middle to where, they could bring it down to a conclusion. And it just fell apart. I mean, it did, and it's just, I feel bad for this guy because, I mean, he got sick and died. But it's like they show pictures in the credits, of what he ended up really looking like. And he reminded me so much of how my dad looked at the end of his life last year. I mean, that was part of my problem with it. I was like, oh dear God. But the difference is, this guy swelled up like the Michelin Man. Where my dad last year, towards the last 2 months of his life, he lost weight like mad crazy. I mean, Dad shriveled up. I mean, I don't know, and I don't want to know about how Lou Gehrig's disease messes you up, but it is kind of like Parkinson's disease, except for, it's like different things happen with you. But, I mean, it's the same basic idea. It's like everything goes to hell in a handbasket, basically. Long story short. I mean, and that was the problem. And I'm like, just really. Both my dad and Father Stu ended up in wheelchairs, except for Father Stu, the lucky devil, got to have a motorized wheelchair. I wish my dad could have had one. I don't know if he would have used it, but, it would have helped Mom out a whole lot. I'll tell you what. But anyway, that aside, I'm sorry if I ruined the ending for some of you. It's just, I felt like it just needed to get said. But anyway, I have to say in conclusion, in case you haven't figured it out, I really don't recommend Father Stu unless you are into those religious type movies or you like Mel Gibson an awful lot. I don't. Or you're wanting more but I do have to warn you. There is one thing, and I don't think I've mentioned this yet. This movie is rated R, and the reason it is because they swear, it's a lot of cursing. They're like, F this and F, they don't use a whole lot of the F-bomb, but, it's shit and fuck. There is some fuck in there. They do drop the occasional F-bomb. But they're like, damn, and it's like, I'm like, if I wanted to watch, it's like a religious movie meets Pulp Fiction almost. I mean, that's pretty much how it came out sounding. But, I mean, the ending is what it was. Well, anyway, I gotta go take care of something else here. And I'll have another movie review for you. And I did want to say one last thing before I stop. There's a couple of movies. I think one of them is out now. I'm going to try to go see it soon. Is the second Downton Abbey movie. It came. Let's see. Today's the 28th, so it came out like 8 days ago or something. I'm going to try to go see that somewhere and do a movie review on that. And then next month on June 24th, 2022, Elvis is coming out. And I'm looking forward to that movie because I happen to like Elvis a lot. And it's about his life. This is one of those movies that I've heard was in the works for like 3 years. And it's got Tom Hanks in it. And I absolutely adore Tom Hanks. I love him and his wife Rita Wilson and Something Fierce. Those two are like two of my favorite actors. So anyway, keep an eye out for movie reviews on those two movies. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.